Shouldn't Stoics believe in God? I mean, modern Stoics today, people who call themselves Stoics, people who read people like Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius and then say, hey, that's me. I find myself in that philosophy. It resonates with me. I'm going to call myself a Stoic. Shouldn't they also believe in the divine or the divine logos, that divine principle which rules over all things? I don't know. That's a question that I'm going to ask and get some help from my friend Jared Henderson in answering. But if this is your first time here at ParkNotes, then I'm Parker. I'm a philosopher and theologian, and this is a channel where I help you study, think, and read more deeply. Now, usually I am wrapping philosophy in some kind of notebook video. I love notebooks. I have a bunch of notebooks all over the place. I'm kind of obsessed. But my notebook habits and tips and tricks are usually a Trojan horse for me to lure you in deeper into philosophy. And I'd like to not do that as much. I'd like to have some just straightforward philosophy videos. We'll see. I built this platform, my platform, all on notebooks. We'll see if I can just give you straight up philosophy. Since that is a big transition, I'll still show you guys at least one notebook habit in this video, so you can still get your notebook fix. But like I said, this is a channel where I help you study, think, and read more deeply, and part of helping you think more deeply is introducing you to philosophical concepts and different philosophers. So if you're just here for the notebook stuff, don't worry. I'm still going to be putting out lots and lots of notebook videos. But if you are here to learn a little bit more philosophy as well, then you're in luck, because I'm going to start putting out some more straightforward philosophy videos. Now, if you do want to go deeper into the notebook stuff, into my notebook philosophy, I have a subsection on my Substack. You can find that linked in the description. And that's going to be all about notebook philosophy. It's the first draft of my forthcoming book, Journal Like a Philosopher. I'm under contract and I need to actually get to work doing it. So I started doing that for my paid subscribers over on Substack. And so far, I got a couple of chapters down, at least the bare bones of the chapters. So go check that out. If you are more interested in the philosophy stuff, I also started a digital intro to philosophy textbook over on my Substack, and that's called For the Love of Wisdom. I have at least one entry up now. By the time you're watching this, maybe I'll have 4 or 5. So as we move forward with more straightforward philosophy videos here on ParkNotes, I want to encourage you guys to just grab a notebook and make it your philosophy notebook. It's time to learn. Let's jump in together. You can call it a dianoia journal if you want. You can just call it philosophia or something like that. A dianoia journal is from the Greek through and mind, and it's come to mean something like discursive thought, reasoning in a chain from one thought to another, and finding the logical bridge between ideas. Does this idea necessitate the other? Does it contradict the other? You're using reason to think through ideas right there on the page. Now you may be asking yourself, how do I get started with a philosophy notebook, with a philosophy journal, with a dianoia journal? How do I get started at all? Well, you can start with the main question of this video. Shouldn't Stoics believe in God? You can just write that down, and then you can start asking yourself, why would I even think that? Why does Parker think that? What reasons does he give for thinking that modern day Stoics, or all Stoics, believe in God? That's a question. Should all of them believe in it? Can you be an atheistic Stoic? And when Stoics talk about God, do they mean the kind of theistic picture of the universe where there's a divine being outside of reality, outside of nature? Seems like the Stoics probably thought that God had a corporeal body, that he was nature, if you can even call God a he. What was the divine logos? What was that rational principle? Was that a part of God or not? These are all questions to start writing down and then thinking through as you research a little bit more of Stoicism. Now, in a minute, I'm going to share a clip from one of my conversations with Jared Henderson. This one was had right here on ParkNotes. We did a live stream together, and this question of shouldn't Stoics believe in God came up, and Jared gave a really helpful answer. I'll also say that I have a philosophy and theology podcast where I talk with philosophers and theologians about all sorts of cool stuff. I've had theologians and philosophers who are specialists in Stoicism on my podcast, and I made an entire playlist just on Stoicism for you guys. So if you want to start your philosophy journal, if you want to journal like a philosopher and start reasoning through philosophical ideas, starting with Stoicism, you can do that today, and you can go find that playlist and go through a bunch of podcast episodes on Stoicism. Okay, but before we get to Jared Henderson's thoughts on whether Stoics should be theists or not, I want to talk about the sponsor for this video, Magic Mind. So whether you keep a dedicated journal just for philosophy, or whether you incorporate philosophical entries into some other journal that you've been keeping, whatever the case, if you want to journal like a philosopher, then you're going to need to set apart time to do your thinking, and you're going to need energy to help you think. But you don't want so much energy that you're feeling spastic or jittery. You want like a calm type of energy, and that's why I love Magic Mind. So Magic Mind has sponsored a video of mine in the past, and they sent me these performance shots, and I actually really like them. So I tried their new shots and compared them with the original for the past 6 days as a part of my morning reading and writing routine. The first 2 days I tried the free, then the next 2 days I tried Max, and then I finished off the last 2 days with the original. Now, I actually like them all. They all taste great, but for me, the free didn't have enough of the morning punch that I like. So I think it'll be better for me to use in the afternoon lull when I don't want more caffeine, but when I feel that I still sometimes need a boost. The Max is also great, but I like to drink a little bit of coffee with my morning routine, and when I had the Max, I found myself not wanting any coffee at all. My problem is that I love coffee, I love the smell of it, I love the routine of making it, and helping myself get in the mental state to be writing and reading in the morning, but I always drink too much of it. So one of the best things about the original mental performance shot is that I can drink this and then have a cup of coffee or two and still get all the aromas of the coffee and get the amount of caffeine that I want, but not too much. The original has 55 grams of caffeine, which is slow release, and 12 other magical ingredients, which help me focus in on thinking deeply. But if you don't like caffeine and you want those 12 other magical ingredients, then you should check out the Magic Mind free mental performance shot. Right now, Magic Mind is offering my audience a limited time deal. You'll get 60% off your subscription if you use my QR code, or the link in the description. You can find that here on the screen. They also give you a 100% money back guarantee, so there's no real risk here. You're basically trying it for free, and you can cancel your subscription whenever you want. So definitely check it out while it lasts, and big thanks to Magic Mind for sponsoring this video. Now let's get to that clip of a conversation with me and Jared Henderson, and let's hear his reasoning on whether or not Stoics should be theists.
Yeah, I actually think I spent the last 2 years talking about Stoicism a ton, really reading through a ton of the Stoics.
How long were your Substack? It was over a year that you were reading through.
Yeah, it took 18 months. Now there were some big breaks because I wasn't publishing as frequently and stuff, but it took 18 months where I went through the meditations, and I read it 3 times for that, in total. And I have come to the conclusion that there are many things to learn from Stoicism, but that I am not a Stoic. Fundamentally, I'm not a Stoic. And so, I think that's going to kind of tip the scales away from Stoicism.
Totally. I get this a lot. People often call me a Stoic, and I'm like, what have I said that's made you think that I'm a Stoic? I appreciate the way that they write. I like that they have notebooks and I talk about it, but yeah, I'm not, I think it's a little bit goofy to call yourself a Stoic today. Maybe not, but I actually had a random question from before about Stoicism. Stoicism has a lot of weirdness in it, a lot of, the metaphysics of fire and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
But they also were theists. And so I was wondering, do you think that you can, do you think modern Stoics should be theists at least? Should they believe in a corporeal God if they're gonna bite it? Should they bite it all the way or what?
Massimo Pigliucci recently wrote a thing about this actually on his Substack. And he's like, of course not. Because he says that the Stoics had no good reasons to believe in God, all their arguments were bad. I think that a little too far. But it's just that I think that Stoicism is such a big tent when you look at the history of it.
Yeah.
Even before you get to the modern Stoics, there's just been so much variation. But what I would say is this: if you are not a theist, and I guess you would have to be a particular kind of theist that believes that God is good. You could always imagine the dark theist. But if you're not, if you don't believe in a providential logos in the universe, then what happens is many common old Stoic arguments fail. They need providence, basically.
Right. Exactly. Providence. Exactly.
And so how Massimo once put it to me was that the trick for him is not to think about how it's actually good. The trick is to think, how can I endure this? but that kind of admits that it's bad.
Yeah, right. You
Right?
don't need to.
And the
How
old,
do I endure the puppies licking my face
yeah,
and
yeah. So
eating cotton
so
candy?
the ancient Stoics didn't accept that it was bad. So what I would say is this: removing theism from the picture of Stoicism changes it
Yeah.
severely.
Yeah.
I don't think that that means you couldn't be an atheistic Stoic. It's just that the consequences. I mean, it's basically just like, imagine if you had this logical system and and it had 5 axioms and you removed one of them. It would
Yeah.
be a different system. Like it would
Yeah.
be a different, and that's fine, right? But it changes the character of the teaching quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I might think that axiom is a little bit more like load bearing as well, where it's like, because you need the providence, you need the trust in the logos to think that things are going to be cool. Otherwise, why am I enduring this in the first place? Right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. Okay, so I agree with Jared that Stoics can be atheists, but if you move one of those principles, if you change that philosophy, then you're going to end up with a different philosophy. Now, that's okay. The old ancient Stoics, they changed their philosophy a little bit. The Greek philosophical system of Stoicism differs from the Roman system of Stoicism. They emphasize different parts of the philosophy, at least. And so a modern day Stoic could modify their Stoicism to to not include theism, but it's going to change the philosophy. Like Jared said, I totally agree with him. I do think that one of the key principles motivating Stoicism is divine providence, like Jared and I were talking about. The idea that the Logos is in control of everything and that everything outside of you is determined. I think that's a major motivating principle of Stoicism. So Stoics are meant to seek apatheia, which is freedom from disruptive passions. That is probably not something that you can control yourself, but you can seek ataraxia, and that will help you achieve apatheia. Ataraxia is the lack of distress and the outward display of emotions, especially in really disruptive, tumultuous, stressful situations. So you may still be feeling that inside. You don't have that apatheia yet, but you're acting like you do and you're faking it until you make it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's a really hard thing to do when you are feeling distressed, to not show it to everyone else. Now, why are those two principles so important in Stoicism? Well, part of it is because of the work that the Logos is doing. Everything outside of you is not actually in your control. So don't focus on it. Don't let external events, which are beyond your control, dictate how you're going to respond or how you're going to feel. Now, again, apatheia is hard to control. It's hard to control your own passions. That's probably something you're seeking for, and maybe only the philosophical sage can actually achieve that end. But at least you can have control over your own emotions. So because everything outside of you is determined, you can't change it, what can you change? What should you focus on? Well, your own actions, your own external displays of emotions, because maybe you can't even control the emotions that you're feeling, but you can control how you are presenting those feelings to others. And in seeking ataraxia and apatheia, you're going to be developing virtue as well. Because in developing virtue, you'll be able to handle all those situations which are out of your control anyways. So that's just a quick little introduction, primer, barely scratching the surface on Stoicism, but I thought maybe I could lure you guys in slowly. If you do want to go in super deep, then check out that Parker's Pensées playlist of a bunch of podcast episodes on Stoicism with scholars in the field. Now, I may be a little bit more pessimistic about Stoicism than Jared Henderson is. I think there might be a fatal flaw right at the center of it, and the fatal flaw is just fatalism. The Stoics believed in a corporeal reality. They believed in souls, but they thought souls were corporeal. They thought they were physical things. Maybe it's like the physical form of the substance which makes you up. They thought that God was a corporeal being. God is just nature, physical nature all around us. I'm not super positive what that says about the Logos. Could the Logos have been immaterial or an immaterial divine plan or something? A pattern of reality? I'm not actually sure about that. I need to do some more research. But if you're going to believe that you are a wholly corporeal being and you believe that everything in nature is determined, well, then that makes you a natural being as well. And why think that you get to stand apart from nature and actually practice virtue and ataraxia and seek apatheia if you're wholly determined, just like the events out in nature? You are a natural being. You don't have an immaterial aspect. You don't have an immaterial soul. They were not substance dualists. A substance dualist could say, hey, I have an immaterial soul. And that operates by different principles than the laws of physics. Now, maybe there's still interaction between my physical brain and my immaterial mind or soul. Of course, that would make sense. But at least I have some immaterial spot to put my reasoning processes so they can be distinct and apart from the laws of physics, which are determining everything else in corporeal reality. So that may be a fatal flaw for ancient Stoicism, the kind of Stoicism which believes in physicalism and determinism, because if you're a wholly physical being, then you would likewise be determined by the events of the past and the laws of nature, just like everything outside of yourself. But like Jared said in the clip, I think you could probably change your view of Stoicism to get around this, which is fine. Just call it Neo-Stoicism or something like that, or just adopt some of the principles of Stoicism without having to call yourself a Stoic. That's really no big deal. If you guys do want to explore that fatalism problem for Stoicism in a little bit more depth, I've written a blog post. You can find that link in the description as well. It should be called Stoicism's Fatalism Problem or something like that. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you like some more straightforward, not necessarily focused on notebooks videos, then leave me a comment in the description to encourage me so that I will continue doing these. If you guys made it this far into the video, then you're awesome. Leave me a little thinking emoji in the comments. If you guys like this video, then leave me a like and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. And again, check the description for all those philosophy resources and even the first drafts of my forthcoming book, Journal Like a Philosopher. All right, I'll catch you guys next time.